Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Master Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Hope you guys are doing well. It's so nice to have everybody here. Thanks so much for joining us. If this is your first time stopping by the Jim Master Show live, well, welcome. It's good to have you here. I work in television and radio, stage and film professionally, and we started this fantastic interactive series as a talk show series, sort of paying homage to the old school talk shows, the Johnny Carsons, the Dick Cavetts, and so much more, with a modern vibe, modern twist. Those of you who watch all the time know that, but those of you who are watching for the first time, gives you a little idea of what we do here. Great entertainment, poignant conversations, interactivity with our viewing audience watching from all around the world. And that includes you, our lovely squad watching. If you'd like to comment during the show, you are invited to do that when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. When you subscribe to it, doesn't cost anything. You have an opportunity to enjoy some really great things. Bonus, exclusive. You know what that is? You can comment in the JMS Lovely Hall chat room, which is the chat room that's on while the shows are airing. And you can say hello to one another, say hello to us as well. We might even sprinkle a comment or two on the screen while we are here. Hey, I'm very excited to let you know that we have a very special guest joining us here, Mary Deese Hampton. She's an extraordinary actress. You've seen her in so many series, General Hospital, for all the soap fans out there, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Family Matters, and so much more. We're going to talk about all the cool things. We're also going to celebrate another revered, beloved actor, character actor, and so much more, James Hampton. You know him from just about everything. I mean, F Troop, of course, one of the classic series from the 60s. He was in that. He was in The China Syndrome. And these are just a few, and that's a great movie, just a few of the incredible things that he was in. I don't think there's anything from the 60s and 70s, 80s, beyond that he probably wasn't in. He was just one of those faces that you saw in so many classic television shows and fantastic movies as well. He's unfortunately no longer with us. So we're celebrating James as much as we're celebrating Mary. And we also are going to be telling you about this fantastic book that was penned that was really something quite special. Let's show you the cover of the book. What and Give Up Show Business, James Hampton. This is really something very, very special. You know, they had a love affair that went many years, and both of them extraordinary actors in Hollywood, making their home in Texas. Of course, Mary, you've seen her everywhere, and look at that face. You've seen James. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been on so many shows of F Troop. There he is, gang. Bringing back some memories for you, right? Absolutely. Just one of those great faces, The Longest Yard, one of those great talents and great faces, sort of the Every Guy Next Door face, although he played a lot of different characters. Remember this series, Maggie? Yeah. And of course, there's Doris Roberts. You remember Doris, of course. She's on the right from Everybody Loves Raymond. And yeah, we're going back in time a little bit with some of these great shots. This is a more recent photo of James. Again, we're going to be celebrating. Look at this, having fun together, Mary and James. Again, James, an extraordinary actor, and Mary herself making her mark in so many incredible classic shows and specials and so much more. We're so excited. Here's another great shot. Here's Jim actually cooking. This Jim likes to cook, and that Jim liked to cook as well. Just some really fantastic trip down memory lane coming your way here on the show. Again, we welcome everybody. It's so good to have you here. And if you want to comment, feel free to do that while the show is on. You can do it in the JMS Lovely Hall chat room. But without further ado, we want to dive right in and we'll talk about everything. It's time to welcome our illustrious guest to the show, Mary Deese Hampton. She's coming to us from Dallas, but she's packing her bags because she's going overseas on a very special trip back to her ancestral grounds. It's going to be really, really beautiful for her. She hasn't been there since she was 3. We'll tell you where in just a moment. But first, join me in welcoming Mary Deese Hampton to our show. It's an honor to have her here. Mary, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Jim, and I like being called illustrious.
Yeah.
Me.
That's it. You are, I tell you. You know,
Thank you.
when you look back at all the incredible things that you have done as well, one of the keys that people have been talking about, and when I mentioned you were going to be on, they remember you so well from GH, from General Hospital, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. That was, people will ask me, what was the most exciting thing that I've worked on? And I always say General Hospital. I'll tell you why. Because I sat in that sorority house and watched Luke and Laura get married almost 20 years to the date where I appeared on the show. And I never would have thought at the time that I'd be on the show and work with both of them. So that was really exciting to me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And that was 1980, wasn't it, when they had that big
Oh,
wedding?
yes, indeed. The biggest thing on television, I think, at least daytime TV for sure.
Now, our audience will recognize Mary Deese Hampton from many commercials and television shows as well. And since the 90s, she's worked on some of your television favorites. You worked on Family Matters as well. What was that like? Another classic on
Oh my
that Friday
gosh.
night lineup was so locked in on ABC with all those shows, huh?
That's right. And that was actually the first show, the first sitcom that I did when I moved to LA. And it was a lot of fun. And it what's interesting to me is when the character that someone is playing is so different than the actor. Some actors will stay in character, and others, like the actor that played Steve Urkel, action, and he's Steve Urkel, cut, and now he's himself, and so that was really interesting to see. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing comedy. Most of the work I've done has been in comedy, and so I love that. They were a lot of fun.
Now, where does that comedy bug come from? Are there comedic people in your background, in your family, or was it exclusively you?
Oh, my mother was
Yeah.
hilarious. And she just, she was just funny. And I guess I was raised an only child. I have a brother who's 15 years younger than I am, but I was 19, and when I married I was 21, I guess, and I was out of the house. So he was 4, I guess, when I moved out of the house. So he was we were both kind of raised only children, but we're very close. But so I have to say, I was an only child, raised an only child, and I was kind of always used to being the center of attention. So I took advantage of that. And, Jim, and I go back to Jim because Jim was a small child. And he always said that he figured out pretty quick that the bully couldn't hit you if you could make him laugh first. So,
Yes,
but for me,
absolutely.
it was just kind of being the center of attention all the time. And I just like to have fun, and got it from my mom, I guess, because she was a really funny lady.
You also had an opportunity, and we had another brilliant actress on, Daphne Maxwell Reed from Fresh
Oh,
Prince of Bel
yes.
Air, was a guest on the Jim Master Show. Gang, if you want to see that episode, it's in our archives here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. What was it like working on that, another iconic series, that one on NBC?
Well, it's so funny because it was a great experience, and the actors, the show had been on for a couple of years before I was on it, and I did, I think, 3 episodes of that show, twice playing the same character and once a different character. But so they just, they knew how to work with each other, and it was just a really comfortable set, and people were super nice. And what's interesting is Daphne probably won't remember me at all, but I worked sort of with her in 1999. She was married to Tim Reed, and Jim had directed Sister Sister, which Tim was the star of. And he and Daphne opened or built their own studio in Petersburg, Virginia. And
That's
Tim
right.
asked Jim to direct a sitcom that he had on Showtime called Links.
That's
And
right.
and so, I quote unquote worked with her again. I was Jim's director's assistant back then, and so I was around her again at that time. And let me tell you, she makes a mean crab cake.
I had heard that. I had heard that, and I'm a crab cake guy. We're on the East Coast here. I love the ocean, and oh yeah, yeah, those Maryland crab cakes.
Mm.
They are tough to tough to beat. You're in Dallas, and Dallas has a lot of great food. And
Oh,
you and I were just chatting. I was on a television shoot. I've been sent to Texas a lot recently. Houston, Austin, Conroe, Spring, and then Dallas, and the Metroplex. After we had some downtime, we really sampled a lot of the museums, and then of course the restaurants. And there's some areas there that are exquisitely beautiful. I mean, I
oh,
forget there's a
yeah.
particular section that's a very high-end area. The college is there,
Oh,
and
by SMU,
yes,
Highland Park, University Park.
yes,
Yes.
yes. We actually filmed in a church in that area, which was really beautiful. And then they took us on a tour. I believe the Bushes live in that area as well. President George and Laura. That's a beautiful area, isn't it?
Yes, it sure
Yeah.
is. It sure is. Yeah, it's you just can't get a bad meal here. Jim was raised in Dallas and I was raised in Fort Worth. And so when he decided to retire, we decided to make Texas our home again. And we both had family and friends here, so that's how we ended up back in, the Lone Star State.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I were just talking how the Dallas Metroplex area, Dallas Fort Worth, is really booming. It's like growing. I saw a lot of building happening and construction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a blessing and a curse. We in Texas we welcome people, but at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, the traffic's starting to look like LA. So that's not so great. But it's a happening place for sure.
6 lanes of nobody going anywhere in Los Angeles, right?
Absolutely. I don't miss that.
Why is it that it's 6 lanes of traffic of people not getting anywhere, but when there's a police chase, the guy always seems to be able to go 100 miles an hour?
Get over, yeah.
Everybody just parts the seas and goes, okay, another one. Here we go. Helicopter chasing,
Right.
KTLA or one of the stations chasing them. Uh, and I mentioned, of course, General Hospital as well, but also the recurring role of reporter Kristy Koy
Yes,
too.
that was General
That
Hospital.
was that it was a great role to have, and people were mentioning that when I was mentioning that you were coming on the show. Your films too. People may, of course, this may hit a chord with people too. In memory, Big Stone Gap is one of them.
Oh,
Harold,
yes.
that's a great one. Tell us about being involved in that one.
Well, I have to go back to the Daphne Reed, Tim Reed connection. One of the producers of that show was a wonderful writer named Adriana Trajani. And Adriana is now a prolific novelist. I mean, she wrote Big Stone Gap. And so I guess Big Stone Gap probably was published in 99 or 2000. It was after we did, I want to say it was right after we did the show. So she and Jim both from the South. And so they befriended each other and just loved each other to pieces, and me too. And she had always told Jim that she wanted to turn this into a film, but she wanted to do it in Big Stone Gap. And it took her almost 10 years to get it done in Virginia. But, to her credit, she wanted to bring that area, which, is the Appalachians, and the economy was some depressed, and she
Yeah.
wanted to bring some life back to that economy, and she was able to do it. And so she always told us, you and Jim are in it. And I mean, what a cast. I mean, Patrick Wilson and Ashley Judd and Jenna Elfman and Anthony LaPaglia, who, by the way, taught me to smoke a cigarette in the scene where I'm smoking the cigarette.
Oh yeah.
He walked up to me and goes, no, 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 no. You don't do it like
Here's how you do it.
that.
Let me have that.
Yeah, here's how a lady would do it. So was fun. It was a lot of fun, and again, we actually shot it in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. It's a beautiful part of the world, and I was there, I guess about a year ago, and they actually turned the little hamburger joint in the movie into their visitor center. And all around the visitor center, we had, when we came back for the premiere in 2015, we had put our handprints, and they've got those cement blocks with our handprints in them and our signatures around the
Wow.
visitor center there. So it was a lot of fun to see, and all that. They're just the nicest people. And so that's our connection with that. It's so funny, this business. You're connected to somebody, connected to somebody, connected to somebody. So
Escape from Guantanamo Bay is another. Yeah.
yeah, if you're a college boy, you'll know that movie. So I have a funny story to tell you about that movie. So I was unfamiliar with Harold and Kumar, the movie. And so I booked the role of Harold's mother in the second film. And my mother, who was Korean, and my stepfather, who's this wonderful Indiana farm boy, they, movies weren't their thing. And Jim and I traveled a lot. Jim played, oh gosh, for over 30 years in celebrity golf tournaments, raising money for different
Yes.
charities. And he
Yes.
loved golf, but he loved to give back. And actually, that's how he met our mutual friend, Christopher Corman. But going back, so now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Well,
Uh,
we
Guantanamo and
right,
yeah.
so we were at a golf tournament in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I talked to my mother every day. And so, I called mom and I said, "How's your day going?" And she, there was a hesitation, and she says, "We saw your movie." And I said, "What movie?" And she said, "That boy movie, that boy movie." I said, "Harold and Kumar?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well," I hadn't seen it. I said, "Well, what'd you think?" And she said, "Not too many naked people in it." I said, "Well," and I know what she was talking about. I said, "Well, I wasn't naked." And she said, "You're too old to be naked." So that was my first
So
critique,
we
from my
we
mom.
see, like you said, where the humor comes down from. Yeah.
So
And
it,
that's where you're headed. That's the place I was mentioning, teasing. You're headed back to Korea, to Seoul, and you
yes,
haven't been there since you were 3. How
yes.
special is this?
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. And my cousin, who my mother brought families over, her family siblings over in the 70s, and my cousin who's going with me was a member of one of those families, and she was 8 when she came to the States, and so she speaks fluent Korean, thank goodness, because
Mm,
I've been kind of boning up on my Korean, but I'm not, certainly not fluent. But I'm just so excited. I had a friend who went. My friend Shelly went about 4 years ago, and just raved about how clean and how
yeah.
beautiful and how polite the people were. And so next week I'm so excited.
So have you learned yet how to say, "I absolutely love the Jim Masters show" in
I'm not sure,
Korean?
no, but I'll learn that. I'll be
Yeah,
sure.
when you come back,
Yes.
what words have you learned?
Oh, 감사합니다. That means thank you. Very important. 네, which means yes, or kure, which means okay. 아니요, which means no. It's a complicated language. I used to listen to my mother speak in Korean on the phone when I was young, and she used to sing me little Korean songs. But I just, there was nobody for me to
Bounce it
listen
off
to.
of,
And
yeah,
then when you're a teenager, you're 13, you're like, there's
yeah.
boys out there, and I don't care about learning another language. Dumb me, dumb me. My mother's dream was that I learn Korean and that I go to work at the UN like Gidget did in the Gidget movie. I don't know which one.
Right.
That was her dream for me. Sorry, mom.
That's it. We love you, Mom. What's your mom's name, first name?
Bu Young. But she went by Ko. Her last name was Ko, so she went by Coco because it was just easier for everybody to say.
That's fantastic. There's a few in Beverly Hills named that. Several, more than likely. Uh, Dusting Cliff 7 is another.
Right.
Yes, tell us about
That
that.
was actually the first film that I did when I was in LA. I think that was like 1994. And it's so funny because I was in a scene with the actors, but I was on TV in the scene. So, Nancy, and I'm terrible with names. The star of that show, Nancy, she was married. Oh gosh, to Brian De Palma, and she was in. Oh gosh, she was in so many. She was in Carrie. Somebody out there knows who I'm talking about. Anyway, Jim used to appear at a lot of celebrity Comic Cons, and she was at one. And I thought, oh, she won't remember me, but I'm going to go up and say hi. So I did. And before one word came out of my mouth, she pointed at me and she said, I remember you from somewhere. I never forget a face. And I told her, she said, yep. And I said, and all you ever saw me on was on the TV screen in the movie. I never actually worked with you, but she remembered me. She's a very sweet lady.
Wow, that's so cool, huh? Because sometimes when people come up to you and say, I remember you, I remember that face, that can go in any direction.
Oh, Jim got that all the time.
Did
Jim,
he?
everybody knew his
Oh,
face,
yes.
but not his name. And Johnny Carson, he was on the Tonight Show. Gosh, I bet 30 times, and Johnny loved him, and
Yeah.
he just loved to shoot the breeze with Jim, and so
Yeah.
he was on the show a lot. And one time he was on the show, he said to Jim, he never used to come back and talk to the guests before they went on because he
That's
wanted
right.
everything to be
Keep it fresh.
correct. And so, but he came back and knocked on the dressing room door, and he said, Jim, he said, something happened last night. And he said, I want to try something tonight if you don't mind. I want to run it by you first. And Jim said, sure. He said that he and his wife were watching TV, and there was something, I don't know, Longest Yard or something came on. And his wife said, oh, that actor, he's in everything. Oh, I know his face. And Johnny said he turned to her and said, well, do you know his name? No, but he's been on your show a lot. I know his face. And so what they did that night was Johnny had Jim come out and he introduced him, but he said, I want everybody in the audience who recognizes this actor when he comes out to, I think he said, to stand. And so out Jim comes from behind the curtain and everybody stood up. And then Johnny said, and I want everybody who knows his name to remain standing. And Jim says, like, one guy is standing, right? And so Johnny made everybody put their hand over their heart and pledge to remember the name of James Hampton. And he said that he would run into people at the mall or the gas station, and they'd say, oh, I took the pledge, I saw the show. But the weirdest thing, and this will tell you what a small world this is, when we moved back to this area, I'm a member of a women's sorority, and we were at a function, and a man came up to Jim, one of my sorority sister's husbands, and he said, Jim, he said, I took the pledge. And Jim said, oh, you saw that episode? He said, no, I was there. And he said, what? He said, yeah, I was a college student in Oregon. And he said, we were all down in LA for spring break and we decided to go to the Tonight Show filming. And he said, I was there. And that was the only person that Jim ever met that was actually in the audience. And I thought, what a
Wow.
small world we have.
Absolutely right. Well, he, had one of those faces that just you would always remember the face.
Mm-hmm.
Just one of those iconic character actor faces that had a warmth and a certain smile and I mean, he played all different kinds of characters, but he just had a certain neighbor next door, nice guy feeling just even when you look at him.
Well, I have, been blessed with being able to continue to go to a lot of these autograph shows and Comic Cons that Jim and I used to attend so many years ago. And I mean, I still get fan mail for Jim. People just expressing their condolences and talking about, just how much they enjoyed his work. Fans will come up and talk about Jim, and celebrity friends of his that I've known, and some that I didn't know that knew him, have told me some wonderful stories. I mean, I could do a sequel to the book just with those stories, but I had one fan come up to me, and going to what you were saying, he said to me, he said, Mr. Hampton just had a comfortable face.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
Jim would have loved that. A
Yes.
comfortable face.
Doesn't he? He
Yeah,
really does. Yeah. He
he does.
really.
Those
So
dimples.
how did? Yes. Yeah. It must be a Jim thing. They got passed down to me too.
Yeah,
Like you said, he also went by Jimmy, and he never met a Jimmy he didn't like. Right.
that's right.
I've always admired his work. Working in television myself, I've always admired his work, and I admire yours as well. Just so many of the iconic shows that everybody grew up on that you can see in reruns that he was a part of.
Mhm.
I mean, Gunsmoke, F Troop, that, of course, a big claim to fame. How'd that ever happen where he got to get to part of an iconic series like F Troop with Larry Storch and the gang?
Oh my gosh, Jim just loved what he did, and he would say, he'd speak to acting classes, and he'd say, it doesn't matter if you're a plumber or electrician or sell Mary Kay. If you love what you're doing for a living, you are very, very lucky. And he loved being an actor, and he the way he got to be a director for the last 12 years that we were in LA is a strange story too. But Jim had done several episodes of Gunsmoke, and
Yes.
he played the role of a young man named Jeb. And at the time, they were thinking of making that role a recurring role. Making that, and that's where he met Bert. Actually, they met on the
Oh,
set of Gunsmoke. Bert played Quint, the blacksmith on that show at the time. But he, had gone to uh, an audition for F Troop, even though he kind of, his agent was kind of hinting around that, well, they're probably going to want you. He still went, and they actually hired him as he was walking out as he was walking out of the casting door. So he went back to Gunsmoke and did another episode, but it was as a different character. But yeah, so that's how he got onto F Troop, and people will ask him, gosh, you've done so much, Jim, what was your favorite thing? And he had to think, because he enjoyed everything he did. He just enjoyed being an actor, and he worked with so many wonderful people. And he always came back to F Troop because he said, I don't know if it's because it was my first series, but it was like going to a party every day. And there are some wonderful, wonderful stories in his autobiography about working with the cast and all of that. And he, this is kind of a funny story. He had worked on Gunsmoke, and the director, when Jim became a director, and he was going to an event at the Directors Guild, and he saw that this director, oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but was going to be there. He thought, oh gosh, maybe he'll remember me, and I'll come up and say, well, I played this role of Jeb, and he's going to be all impressed that now I'm a director. And he said, he walked up to him and he said, oh, you may not remember me. I'm Jim Hampton, and you cast me. And he said, oh yeah. He said, I didn't want to hire you. And Jim was like, what? And he said, no, I don't want to hire you. He said, you were brand new, and you didn't have any experience. You could ride a horse. But it's a wonderful story. He said that he and Jim Lister, do you remember, if you look at all those old shows, you'll see Stallmaster Lister, the famous casting company there.
oh
And
yeah.
Lister had been the casting director for Gunsmoke for many, many years. I guess I don't know how long it had been on since, at that point, but at least 10 or 12, 15 years. I don't know. But he said that Jim Lister was very, very, adamant that Jim was the right, actor for this role. And he said he and the other, the executive producer were like, he's just, he doesn't have any experience. We can't, he's a guest star. We don't know that we can, risk that, And he said, Jim, this is the story that this director told him. He said that Jim Lister stood up and he said, well, he said that I quit. And they said, what are you talking about? And he
Yeah.
said, if Jim Hampton isn't the right actor for this role, then I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know that that would ever happen today, but I mean, that's I love that story that
That's
there's a
incredible.
casting director that felt so strongly about an actor being right for a role, that they were willing to put their job on the line for it. And so he says, so that's how you got hired.
See? It takes a village. I say that often. It
Right.
really takes a village. I want to let folks know too, as we talk about Jim, some of the other things that you have been in as well. Spilled is another one.
Spilled was a short subject film that got a lot of awards.
Yeah.
It was, if you look at my list of credits, I do mostly comedy. So
Yes, you
that was
do.
that was a dramatic role for me,
Yeah.
and it was a good one. I just got through doing, it airing, a wonderful comedic role, on a show on Netflix called Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. Yes.
Park. And that, unfortunately, even though it was, I think it's still in the top 10, it got canceled. It was in the top 10 on Netflix and it still got canceled. But I was in a dark comedy, which is another short subject film. And you'll understand why I say this. It's based on a true story about two elderly women who murdered homeless men for insurance money. And,
Mm.
and so while that it was a dramatic role. There were elements of comedy in there, and it's getting some awards in the film festivals, so that's exciting as well. So.
That's incredible. Yeah, yeah. There's so many things that you're in, guest star roles. Like you mentioned, you're in the Netflix sitcom Blockbuster. Also, the TNT series Claws.
Yes, yes. Oh, that was something. I actually did 2 episodes of that show, but my scene in the first one did not make the cut. I guess they didn't feel like they needed it, to introduce me in the second episode that I did. But we filmed that during COVID, so that was the first show that I actually was in when COVID was active. And oh my goodness, the protocols, it was a totally different experience. And but the show must go on. And
Yes, that's
and
it.
yeah, and they were lovely ladies to work with, and I love, love, love. And he doesn't even know this, so maybe if he's watching the show, he will know this now. Their wonderful, wonderful, wonderful director Dale Stern, who directed both the episodes I was in. Lovely, lovely, lovely man, hilariously funny. Last summer, I got a letter from Jim's agent, who's also my agent, and she had gotten a letter from a producer on Evening Shade, and he had asked if he could, have our address and et cetera, and of course, yes, and he sent me a copy of a little homemade film that apparently the writers and producers of Evening Shade made. It was just a goofy homemade film. Well, guess who was in that film? Who was a writer on Evening Shade? Dale Stern. So I'm like, oh my gosh, see what I mean?
Yeah.
Connections, connections. He had worked with Jim, and then here I was working with him, and we didn't know that we had that same common denominator in Jimmy. So I'm looking forward to dropping him a note and letting him know that. But that was kind of fun to find out.
That is incredible,
We
huh?
used to we
The
used to
world
laugh
is so small.
we used to laugh at dinner parties and we'd play this game, 6 Degrees of Separation from Jimmy Hampton. There was a journalist that said Jimmy was the Kevin Bacon of his era because he was in everything. And
He
I think
was
that's true.
right. Absolutely. Definitely is, folks. If you go back and just take a look at some of these series and all that we've been talking about, you also made appearances in Amazon Prime's Vindication and HBO's Bosch and The Leftovers, as well as CBS's Wisdom of the Crowd,
Mhm.
and a recurring role on the remake in 2012 of Dallas.
Dallas, yeah. Gosh, another thrill. What was that 2012? Yeah, what a thrill that was. I mean, Larry Hagman and Linda Gray, and I just it was a show that I watched growing up, And there I was, remake. So that was, it's just strange how things come around. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm sure there's lots of actors out there that feel the same way, that they watch certain shows growing up, and now they were in the remake, or maybe the show was still running and now they're in it, and it's just a very, I hate to use this word, surreal kind of feeling, but
It is.
it's like, I can't believe I'm really here.
Also, the recently released Run, Hide, Fight.
Yes. That film, oh gosh, how, I hate to say it, timely that film was. It's about a school shooting, and actually a group of teenagers that take over a school. It's not just, the horrific ordeal of coming in and shooting students and teachers, but they actually take over the school. And Radha Mitchell and Isabel May were in that movie, and Thomas Jane, I believe. And just it's a harsh subject, but one that unfortunately is what we have to contend with in real life today. Is very sad.
As well as the film Dennis and Henry's Post-Divorce Checklist.
Yes.
Oh, I
Oh,
like that laugh. That
I,
laugh had a little bit of like a sneaky sort of like,
well, I
that
know.
was I like that. Hee hee
It's,
hee. Do you do voice work or characters at all?
I have, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say you absolutely. If you didn't, then they need to call you now.
Call me now. But yeah, what a kooky film. That goes, it's so funny. And the writer of that film, Brian Wilson, Jim and I met. He and his writing partner had a comedy show on in Florida. Actually, we were talking about you going to Florida, and he had been trying to get this little film made. But again, it's just one of those kooky kind of college boy, films, and it's actually about these two middle-aged men that are best friends, and they suddenly find themselves divorced at the same time, and it's like, well, what do we do now? And there's their adventure.
That's incredible. That's really something. The diversity of the roles that you've taken on as well, like with James. You guys, of course, James, an actor and a director, married for 19 years, and you even co-hosted the television pilot B&B Our Guest. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Well, I love B&Bs. I like
Yeah,
going to,
I do too.
small towns, and getting immersed in their history, and Jim loved history as well. And so we would stay in these B&Bs, and it would just be lovely, and you'd talk about not just the history of the town, but of where you were staying, and uh, so at the time there wasn't anything on like that. And so Jim said, well, why don't we shoot a little pilot? And so we did. And it was a lot of fun. And, the only thing I'll say, the only thing that Jim did not enjoy about B&Bs was schlepping his own bags up to the third floor, because there
That's
aren't elevators there. And a
what
lot
you
of times
do at a lot
they're
of them,
old,
right?
right, historic homes, and they're beautiful and everything, but here you go. So I learned to pack light. But yeah, we did that, and we had a lot of fun doing that. We actually shot the pilot in Waxahachie, Texas, and what a beautiful town that is. That is south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's a lot of history there. And they when we were there, a lot of towns, a lot of cities, they've had some kind of a natural disaster, and there's been a big flood or big fire. Whatever. Waxahachie has so many historical buildings. We were told that it's because they'd never had a natural disaster there. So a lot of their historic buildings are still
Still
intact.
there.
Mhm.
Wow. That's incredible. We've done the bed and breakfast thing a lot over the years as well. And I remember I had always heard, maybe you did in the research with that pilot, that there is like a 7-year itch usually, that a lot of the bed and breakfasts will go for about 7 years. And then because of the fact that they have people coming actually into their home regularly, and they have to clean and cook and make the beds for everybody every single day, that sometimes right around 7 years, people decide to move on and maybe not do it anymore and retire officially, whatever. And we stayed in one up in Western Massachusetts. It was in the Berkshires, and it was really nice. And the husband was an artist, and he had his art gallery in the backyard in the barn. But you could tell that the wife was the one who was very much into the whole B&B thing. Because she was very communicative. She was chatting with us and with the other guests that were coming in, and she was showing us around the different rooms and really telling us about the history of this beautiful old New England home. But the husband pretty much stayed in the art gallery and was, to himself. He didn't really engage. And the the final nail that got everybody to understand that he really wasn't that into it anymore was we were all seated in the dining room for breakfast, and we ordered our breakfast, and the breakfast turned out to be delicious. They were making it, the family in the kitchen there, but you can hear them talking in the kitchen. And he's telling her, like, okay, when do we build them? Do we build them now? How long do we have to do this for? And I got to make these pancakes again and this French toast. And she's like, shh, Bob, will you? Shh, they're right outside the door. So then he comes in and all the couples, everybody just stopped and looked at each other and didn't say anything when he did this. He came in right into the dining room from the kitchen, and he had, at that time, they remember the credit card machines where you put the credit card on the thing and you'd slide it.
Yes, I'm old enough to remember that.
The paper and all that. And then you get your paper receipt. And so he takes that machine and comes from the kitchen with the apron on and just drops it at the middle of the table. So and like, how are we going to take care of this? He said, it's just going to be credit card, and we didn't even have the bacon or French toast yet. So we all looked at each other and we all said, oh, well, of course, here's the credit card. And then he did it. And then the breakfast came. And when he went back in there, if she didn't hit him over the head with a frying pan, but you could tell he wasn't as into it as she was. And she was apologizing for him. And I think she sent him back into the art gallery. Bob, get back into the art gallery in the barn and don't come back.
Well,
it's just funny.
I had, in a moment of, absolute craziness, I had actually mentioned to Jim, I said, what would you think about running a B&B? We'd only have to work on the weekends. And I mean, Jim did not deny me much. I mean, he loved me so much, and he would do anything I asked him to do, including going on ghost hunts. But he kind of drew the line there. He said, I don't think I want to spend my weekends, cleaning the house and like that, because we do it here, and now we're going to have to do it for 6 other rooms. So he kind of put the kibosh on that. But anyway, but we enjoyed doing the show, and he did. What a good sport he was. He would go with me to different B&Bs, haunted B&Bs, and
Yeah.
So.
You guys also appeared together in the films Big Stone Gap and Divine Access and The Association as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was fun to work with him. Like I said, I had worked as his director's assistant, but I'd never worked in front of the camera with him. So, that's special. And, now that he's passed,
Which is so hard to believe still,
I know.
Such a life force.
Well, and he was, but I'm so blessed, that I can, pop in a movie or a TV show, and there he is,
and there he is
talking, and I can't do that with my mom or my dad, and friends that I've lost, and so I'm lucky that he's still available for me to to listen to and to see now. And for everybody. So
absolutely right. The Mary Tyler Moore cast. Tell us about this one.
Well, Okay, so here's the story. So Mary Tyler Moore, who, oh my gosh, what a talent she was.
Oh yeah.
Rob, I watched her from, the Dick
Dick
Van
Van Dyke Show, and yeah.
Yes, dancer, singer, and this was the era of the variety shows, and you had Donnie and Marie and Sonny and Cher, and
Yeah, and Captain and Tennille, and yeah.
yes, and thank you for that. I forgot about that one. She always wanted to do a variety show, and she'd just come off of doing the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and so they decided, okay, well we'll put together a variety show for her, and they shot it over at CBS, and it was now the only, besides Mary, really the only well-known actor at that time that was in was Dick Shawn.
Oh yeah, there is on the right. Yep, next to Mary.
And so they put together this group of unknown talented people, really. And I mean, who do you recognize in there in that picture? You see Swoosie Kurtz, you see
Yes.
a young Michael Keaton, and a young
David Letterman.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a call. Adriana Trajani's husband worked for the show Letterman, for the Letterman show for, gosh, 20 years, however long it was on. And I got a frantic call from her one afternoon, and she said, "Oh, you got to watch the show tonight." And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Well," she said, "it was when Michael Keaton, it was one, I think one of the last weeks that Letterman was on, and Michael Keaton was nominated for Birdman, and he was going to be the guest on the show." And she said that her husband had said that they talked about Jimmy, and doing the Mary show. It lasted like 9 episodes, but it was funny. It just, it just only lasted 9
I
episodes.
think you can see, it now on YouTube and other places. Everything ends up on there, which is absolutely amazing. James himself, his first film, The Cliff Dwellers, nominated for an Academy Award, Best Short Subject Live Action Film in 1963. And that nomination led to a move to Los Angeles, where James studied with Leonard Nimoy and began a career as the actor, which he did for about 50 years. But that was really a linchpin, that Cliff Dwellers, huh?
Let me tell you how that happened. So, first of all, let me go back to Jim's college days. He went to the University of North Texas, which is back then it was North Texas State College. And his brother, he had an older brother, Blake, who was 4 years older, and he became a pretty famous artist. And so Jim, on about his, sophomore year, he decided, well, a family doesn't need 2 famous artists, because he was an art major. And he was quite a good artist, actually. And so he looked around, and he decided that all the pretty girls were in the speech and drama department. So he was going to change his major to speech and drama. So that's how he ended up over there. Well, when he left school, he went up to New York to pursue an acting career. And he was in a class with a young woman who passed him a note one day and said that she was going to be starring in this little short subject film, and she thought he'd be great for the lead role. And so it had the name and number of this director on it, and another young man. And so he called him up and went to meet him. And the fella said, well, he said, I've got somebody else in mind. And Jim said, really? He said, well, do you have somebody to build your sets and paint your scenery and all that? Because, I was an art major. And he said, no. And he said, well, of course he was on a budget. And he said, if you'll let me have the lead, then I'll do all that too. So, you're hired. And so, that little film got nominated for an Academy Award. And Jim and Pat Boone had been pledge brothers together in college. And so when Jim went out to the Academy Awards, he had to stay with Pat. He had to borrow a tuxedo from Pat. He had to borrow Pat's car.
Did you have to drink a lot of milk?
But anyway, so so isn't that wild? I mean, you hear a lot of stories, the stories you expect to hear when you listen to an actor. Oh, I ate Sweeney's out of a can and left on the floor at my friend's house for 3 years, and till I finally got my big break. And Jim Hampton just, it was like that's what he was meant to do.
I want to mention some of the other series that people will remember. Of course, he was in Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury, Full House, of course, Bob Saget, and John Stamos and that whole crowd. Melrose Place on Fox, The Dukes of Hazzard on CBS, The Rockford Files, James
Yeah.
Garner. You mentioned Gunsmoke smoke as well. We mentioned, of course, F Troop, but then some of these movies too, like Sling Blade.
Mm-hmm. That was interesting how that happened as well. So Jim had become a writer on Evening Shade, and that again, Jim Hampton, he guest starred on an episode of Evening Shade. And, as you know, the cast of that show, well, he and Bert went back, 1964, but the cast of that show, a lot of them were older actors, Ossie Davis and Hal Holbrook and, those folks. And Mary Lou Henner. Um,
Yes.
after about a couple of days on the show, Jim was sort of, writing jokes, doing a little writing and everything. And she went to Harry and Linda Bloodworth Thomason and she said, listen, you got to hire this guy as a writer because he knows how to write to this generation of actors that we've got here. I mean, no slight on the other writers. It's just, you've got a 54-year-old writer writing for 54-year-old jokes, So he started writing on the show. They hired him, and then when Harry and Linda got involved in the Clinton campaign, Harry just walked up to him one day and said, "You're directing next week's show." I am. So then he began to direct another sitcom they had with John Ritter and Marky Post called Hearts of Fire, and
Yes.
Billy Bob Thornton was also in that sitcom. And Jim said that one day Billy Bob walked up to him and he said, "Jim," he said, I've got a script here. And, when you're a director, if you're even in the business, you have a lot of people that want you to read their script. And,
Right.
and Jim, I mean, most people are very kind and considerate and they'll say, sure. And they read it, and Jim was one of those people. He said, sure, I'll read it. So he said, I did a little short subject film and now I've got a little bit of money to do the feature and I'm going to shoot in Arkansas. And he said, would you take a look at it? Because I'd like you to play the role of the nervous hospital doctor. And he said, okay. And so Jim said he took that script home and he never put it down. It was
Mm.
so good. And the next day he said to him, he said, how fast can I be a part of this film? And Jim said they shot it in under 30 days for less than $1 million
Wow.
in Malvern and Bentonville. Yeah. So
Hmm.
that's how that happened. And then boom, he exploded. So
Another one people remember is Teen Wolf.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Everybody remembers Teen Wolf. I mean, that's just even, I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of years ago before Radio Shack, bit the dust, they did a commercial and it was like bringing Radio Shack back with the 80s or something. They had like Hulk Hogan and all these various characters. And there was the Teen Wolf at the very end. So Jim was excited about that. But he always said it was the little movie that was better than it had to be, and he enjoyed that. He enjoyed working on that movie.
And some other incredible ones, of course, The Longest Yard. I mean, that's just iconic.
That was his Golden Globe nomination.
Yes.
He was nominated for Best Newcomer, and he'd already been there for 12 years and done so much work. But he said, I guess it took that film for Hollywood to notice me.
Absolutely. And another, which we just watched again, actually, on, one of the channels you can subscribe to, The China Syndrome.
Yes.
Working
Yes.
with the iconic Jack Lemmon, one of my favorites as well, and everybody. That was quite he had a really, really crucial role in that film. That was
He
really
did.
something. Yeah.
And it's interesting because someone pointed out, he said, you didn't play many bad guys, and he did in a couple of shows. He did a movie called Attack on Terror where he was in the Ku Klux Klan. But Jim said, I don't know that Bill Gibson, his character in the China Syndrome, was really a bad guy. His job was to, he was the PR guy, and his job was to, make everything look like everything was fine. And so that's what he did. But yeah, he, I mean, that had to have been something. He said that there was a scene, and you remember Jack Lemmon is on the the control room floor, and Jim picks up the phone, and he's
Yes.
speaking with him, and he said he had the phone up to his ear, and Jack had the phone. Before the director said action, he could hear Jack mumbling something, and he said, "Did you say something to me, Jack? Didn't you?" He said he said magic time, and that's what he would say right before he got into
Oh,
the scene.
really?
And so yeah, Jim said he was just whispering magic time. So that
Wow.
was kind of cool.
That is amazing. Yeah, we just watched that, and that movie, speaks volumes on just how things operate, how things happen behind the scenes, and big money and all the politics. I mean, all of it. Uh, just really, really something. Also, Pump Up the Volume was another one.
Yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah.
kind of a not nice guy in that, but, you know, and he had fun playing a not nice guy because pretty much what you saw in most of Jim's, work was who he was. He was that dad in Teen Wolf. He was that best buddy in The Longest Yard. He was the good boss in Full House. I mean, he just, and all the commercials that he did, oh my gosh, he did, so many commercials as well. He was the Incredible Edible Eggman. Remember those?
Oh,
That's
that's right.
He was Louis the 14th, I think, in the Dr. Pepper commercials. He did so many commercials as well. So
Yes, absolutely. You've hosted infomercials. I've done many of those too.
yes,
What was
yeah.
that like doing that?
Well, lucky me. When I got to LA, I met a fellow actor who had become part of I don't know, a standard cast, so to speak, of a production company that produced sales videos, and so they would just use the same cast over and over. You were just pitching a different product.
Yeah,
So that's how I got into doing that, and it
yeah,
was that was fun to do, and you worked with the same people all the time, and
that's right.
it's comfortable, and yeah.
Would have been cool to interview or to at least meet Ron Popeil, of course, the king of the
Right,
infomercials,
absolutely.
Mr. Microphone and all.
The spray hair.
Uh, yes, absolutely. In the 90s and 2000s, James also directed many popular television shows. So many people know him from his prolific acting background, but he also directed some of your favorites like Sister Sister, Smart Guy, The Tony Danza Show, Evening Shade, like we're talking about, starring Burt Reynolds, Boston Common, Grace Under Fire, Lynx, Hearts of Fire. He was involved in the directorial sections of all of those.
Yes.
Great series, huh?
Yes, yes, and he was a very good director, and, I as an actor, of course, Jim with the comfortable face, right? I mean, everybody loved him, everybody recognized him, and just, he was just a warm, funny guy and just made everybody comfortable right away. So he was really, if I never worked as an actor that he directed, but I will tell you that, there are directors that are like him that just make you feel comfortable right away. And so I think he experienced the success that he did as a director. He also, I think, having, been an actor, I think that he was able to give his casts a little bit more leeway, maybe, to, for their creativity, to allow them to, kind of experiment with what they felt was right for that character, and he wasn't so rigid. But yeah, he was a wonderful director. I worked for him as his director's assistant from I guess, the mid '90s after he left Evening Shade. Uh, until he retired in 2000, and just watching him work with folks was, I mean, he was just great. And it's hard because he was I don't know, for lack of a better term, a staff director for Evening Shade. I mean, you know your actors, everybody who's involved, and your cameraman, all producers, your writers, all those people. But when you then begin to go from show to show, now you've got to acclimate to whatever the atmosphere is of the show you're working with. And he was able to do that, and in a really good way. So
We've got this Harry is wolfing out on Teen Wolf, huh?
there he is. Yeah. People would say, how long did it take you to put the makeup on? And, he said, I was just head and hands,
That's it.
He said, but it was still 4 or 5 hours. And they'd say, how long did it take you to get it off? He said, about 10 seconds,
Wow.
because he was claustrophobic and itchy and hot.
Oh, boy.
I had to do it every day, so.
He liked to cook too, huh?
That's a picture of us in Italy. Yes, he was a wonderful cook.
What was his specialty? Did he have some specialties?
Well, I will just say this. Jim was the one-pot wonder.
Yes.
Like soups and stews and chili and things like that. He was terrific. He was a really good cook. And gosh, that worked out well for me.
Yeah. This is the cowboy group. Tell us about this.
This picture, gosh, there was I don't know, like a cowboy autograph show thing, and out in, I think it was Gainesville, and you'll see there on the left front is Barry Corbin, wonderful. Oh my gosh, you want to talk about a career.
Yes.
And Ken Farmer and Jimmy and Alex Cord, also another Western star. And there's Bob Fuller. I think that's Bob's wife, Jennifer, in between Alex and Bob. And of course, Bob, gosh, did everything. And then, I grew up with him. I don't remember the Western, but I remember Emergency. Do you remember that show?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Randolph Mantooth.
Right. Kevin. Yes. And then on the far right is Glenn Morshower. I don't know, Glenn, where's your cowboy outfit? I don't know, but wonderful, again, another wonderful actor that everybody, recognizes, Glenn Morshower. And he's in the Dallas area as well. So
we mentioned the bed and breakfast there. There you are on the balcony of one of them, huh?
We're in Italy. Yeah, we're in Italy at a bed and breakfast in Italy. And Jim had just gotten through dragging our luggage up 3 flights of stairs.
If he's not dragging the luggage, he's got his head in an alligator.
There's my funny husband. Yes. We were in Florida and at a celebrity golf tournament, and he just can't help himself. So there he was.
Yeah.
He was like the funniest human being I have ever known. He just,
Good
besides
heart.
my mother, he and my mother. Oh my gosh, and the two of them together, forget it.
Oh boy. It's a great one too.
He and Larry Storch. Yeah,
Larry Storch from F Troop, and and we just lost him not that long ago too, right?
99. Yeah. 99. It was like Betty White. It was like, come on, Larry.
He made it to 99, right?
Yes. And I just, in fact, that was the year I think that I met Larry. Jim and I went up to New York, and we went to Larry's apartment there. And every time Larry would see me, he would look at me and he'd say, "Mary, you look like $1,000,000 yen." And I'd say, "Larry, that's about 26 cents." But he was funny and sweet and charming and lovely. And he had this funny story. He told us he played this little saxophone, and right down there, you can't see it. I was in Central Park. And we had arrived that day, and he said that Larry wore this little driving cap a lot, and he said he'd been down in Central Park playing his little saxophone on the bench, and he got hot, and so he took his little cap off and set it down on the bench. He said pretty soon this little boy came over, put $1 in his cap. He said, "Oh no."
That's it. That's funny. That is a funny story. This is a nice shot.
Oh, I love it. I don't know where we were, but we traveled a lot, and we just, and I'll tell you, I look at that face of Jimmy's, and a friend of his that we used to see at a lot of events that we'd go to said to me, she said, Jimmy just brought the happy wherever he went. And I think that's so accurate, because he just did. You look at him and you just smile. You can't help but smile.
Or you kiss him.
Oh yeah, but everybody better keep their lips off of him, but me. But
look how happy he is. He's like, I'm in heaven right here.
Then that dimple, he was just a love. He just was, and he was one of the wittiest men. I mean,
Yes.
he was so quick,
Yeah.
quick-witted, and just a laugh. I mean, I could never stay mad at him because he'd always make me laugh.
Here's another one. Ah, look at that, huh? There's
Yep.
with President Clinton and Burt Reynolds, and wow, everybody here in this shot.
Somebody else that plays the saxophone. Yes.
That's right. That's an iconic photo on many different levels, huh?
Right. Yeah. And
This is cool.
I have that sweatshirt, by the way.
Oh, you
That
do?
evening shade sweatshirt. I sure do.
This is a cool shot.
Oh, we were on a river cruise and we just were having fun.
This is nice. And here he is with the incomparable Johnny Cash.
Oh, yes, indeed. He did a movie with Johnny called Thaddeus, Rose, and Eddie. And I remember seeing that movie growing
Yes.
up, and he played this kind of smarmy real estate guy named Alvin Carl, and I still remember the jingles. Alvin Carl, he sells Texas. Alvin Carl, he sells Texas. I don't know why that is stayed in some brain cell in my head, but I remember Jimmy from that. Of course, I grew up watching him too, and for some reason this role stuck out for me, and I remember telling him I remembered him from this role.
Viewers, all of our viewers who are watching, we welcome everybody. I'm Jim Masters, your host. If you're just joining us, this is the Jim Masters Show live entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. Our guest is celebrated actress Mary Deese Hampton, and we are talking about her iconic career and also that of her husband, the incomparable James Hampton, and all the amazing things that he's been in. And somebody also mentioned, it was George Mallory said, loved him as Leroy from the Doris Day Show.
Yes. Again, now you want to talk about Jim being, just in awe of someone he was working with. I mean, he went straight from F Troop to doing the Doris Day Show, and Doris just adored him. And her. I mean, just what wasn't there to love? And he had done when the DVDs came out for the Doris Day Show. Jim had done filmed a little piece at the end for the DVDs, and the fellow who had actually came out here to our home to shoot it. Gave Doris our new information, and she actually called the house, and how do you not know her voice, right? And she said, is Leroy B. Simpson there? And I said, well, Leroy's gone to the store right now. Can I have him call you back? And she said, just tell him that a former employer called. And so we laughed. She knew I knew. And they used
and then
to
you said, "K Sarah, Sarah."
Yeah.
Whatever will be, will be.
Right. And they used to send each other a fruitcake every year.
So that's where that fruitcake from 1964 has ended up.
Right.
The one that everybody keeps passing around. Somebody said there's only one fruitcake on the planet, and it just keeps getting passed around.
They're probably right, but they were probably the only two people I know that liked fruitcake. So they'd send each other one every Christmas.
That is so cool. That is really, really special. Maggie was another, we showed this earlier, the series that he was in. There's Doris Roberts, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on ABC.
Yes, that was an Irma Bombeck show.
Irma Bombeck, yeah.
That was kind of loosely based on her life. And
that's right. She had an interesting take on life.
Right.
Irma.
Oh, yeah. What a funny lady. What a funny
Yes, she, as we're celebrating the 90th birthday of Carol Burnett, Carol Burnett was in the movie that I believe was an Irma Bombeck movie, and that was Carol Burnett and Charles Grodin. What an interesting mix as husband and wife. And the movie was The Grass is Always Greener Over the Septic Tank.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was something. That was really. Here's another great shot of James.
Oh, that's a Love American Style. That's an episode.
Yes, Love American Style.
He was Love American Style. If Glenn Morshower is watching this, that is Glenn Morshower's favorite show of all time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Jim was a regular on that show
Oh
for
yes.
years.
We were
And
watching it too because what is it? Decades. The Decades Network
mhm,
does a lot of like weekend binges, and they've
yeah,
done binges with Love American Style, and you'll see James in several of those uh, short like
right.
episodes that they
So
did,
we
which
call
was
them the
really
blackouts.
cool.
We call them the blackouts,
That's
and
right.
they'd be little, maybe they wouldn't say anything, but they'd just be, but yeah, and he loved doing that, and he told me that was his first paying gig. He'd write some of the little shorts, and they'd give him $25.
Wow.
His first paying writing gig. But yeah, so that was an episode, that particular episode. He and Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker
Oh,
uh,
Forrest Tucker.
played
Yes. Yep.
played army uh, uh, army men stationed in Alaska or something, and I thought that people that would recognize them from F Troop would have found that amusing. That the three of them were cast in that episode together.
Would you like a little, you may already know this, some trivia about the theme song to Love American Style? Of course, the iconic composer and musician Charles Fox
Hmm.
created that, and The Love Boat, and so many iconic themes of the day. But the singers, first, the original singers they used were the group the Cowsills, and then they sort of revamped it and they brought in these singers that were very talented jingle singers of the day. They were singing jingles for just about every commercial, every TV, radio station, campaign, station ID, whatever it is. And they were the Ron Hicklin singers, which
Wow.
are out of Texas. And Ron Hicklin was the creator of that group. And the ones that sing Love American Style were also in the 70s, the Ray Conniff singers
Oh,
on all of Ray's albums in the 70s, because they wanted that youthful sound, and they had sort of that youthful sound.
right.
And they were also the backup singers on the Partridge Family, and they were the backup singers on the Monkees.
Oh, my favorite show, The Monkees.
Those
Oh,
singers that sing Love American Style, the Ron Hicklin singers, they
wow.
were like the sound of the day, the session singers.
Yeah.
A little
Oh,
trivia there, huh?
thank you. I love that.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really great, great sound. Anastasia says Mary Deese Hampton is a legend. Yes, she is. She's an illustrious legend.
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Somebody
And,
asked, was James and Marcus Welby?
pardon me?
Was James and Marcus Welby?
No, he never did a Marcus Welby. He
Yeah.
didn't do one of those. He did about everything else though, but
Yeah, yes, including wrote that fabulous book. And tell us about this. I know
oh my goodness, wasn't
what
show
and
business.
give up show business.
Yes, and he actually came up with the title before he started writing, and I said, "Well, where'd you get this title from? What do you mean?" He said he had seen a comic strip moons before, decades before, and it was a circus that was going through a circus parade that was going through a town, and the citizens of the town were on either side of the street, and the ringmaster came out, and then the acrobats were flip-flopping, and the lion tamer and his whip, and the bears, and he said at the end, he said there were the elephants, and he said behind the elephants, the little cell behind the elephants was a little janitor guy, and he was sweeping up the elephant poop, and one of the people on the sideline said, "Can't you get a better job than that?" And little janitor said, "What? And give up show business?" And so that stuck with Jim, and that's where that title came from. This book, it just was a labor of love, and I say that because Jim kind of wrote like Margaret Mitchell he wrote in pieces, and so you might not know, but he developed Parkinson's disease, and so it got to the point where I was doing most of the writing in terms of dictating or trying to put together his small stories and combine them, and the wonderful TCU Press, the first, I guess it wasn't even a pitch. I mean, but they wanted to publish the book really badly, and so I thought that was very appropriate because Texas based, and
Oh
so
yeah.
it's got recipes and stories and so many photos that you don't see anywhere else, because these are most of them are Jim's personal photos. So it's a fabulous book. It's like a coffee table size book, and the publisher wanted to do it that way because otherwise those wonderful photos would have been too small. So it's fabulous, and I'm so glad that he was with us. I have a picture of him holding the book. He was so happy, and I'm grateful for that, and everybody that I know has loved it. So it's got all 5 stars on Amazon, and
Yes.
great book.
And Amazon, and where else can they get it?
They can
Amazon
go
and
to TCU Press and get it there, or Texas A&M University Press. It's TAMU Press, and buy it. Either one of those 3 ways. Some bookstores, are carrying it. I don't know. I really don't know which ones, but yeah, it's out there. So get it.
yes, absolutely. And I love a good coffee table book, don't you?
Yeah, and the stories.
Just
I mean,
yeah.
these are behind the scenes stories that only somebody who's actually on a set or worked with somebody would know. And there's so many more stories that are out there. Like I said, it's certainly ones that I've heard about Jim since he's passed. That I was like, oh darn, I wish that was in the book. So who knows? Maybe we'll do a sequel. Maybe I'll do a sequel. So we'll see.
I was going to say, are you writing? Do you have one in the offing as well?
Well, no, but I've got a screenplay that I'm writing on, and Jim had a screenplay, and we're trying to get that off the ground. We're close.
That is cool. That's exciting, huh?
Yes, it is. It is.
Wow. What are some other things that you're working on that people can look forward to coming up? You've got your hands in so many different things.
Well, right now, I think the screenplay I'm working on, and a screenplay that Jim has been working on. Gosh, probably for about 10 years, the last 10 years of his life. And so I hope that those come to fruition. I just got through doing this short subject film that, like I said, it's called Insure, and it's on the film festival circuit. There's, now we've got the writer's strike that just happened. This is,
Yes.
I was saying to somebody the other day, I said, I am old enough to have lived through 3 writers strike as an actor. So, I don't know where that's going to take us right now, but there's a lot of things happening. I'm excited about my trip to Korea, and I am a K-drama queen. I have been watching those for about a year and a half, and I just think they're wonderful, and the writing is terrific. And who knows, I might just try my hand at working over there. We'll see.
That's cool, huh? So have you started packing for the trip to Korea?
Oh, I started packing weeks ago.
Did you really?
I just started pulling things out. But yeah, I'm just, it's the first time I have not left the country since Jim and I did our river cruise back in 2013. So all these new rules, and what I can take, what I can't take, what test I have, what I don't have to, forms, and so I just started planning a long time ago, probably about 2 months ago. I started trying to get everything together and be ready to go. So yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, she's ready. Yes, just like I'm ready to go see the family in Florida for my sister's
Yeah,
birthday and Mother's Day and all the preparation when you're busy, like in these types of careers, all the things you have to do to set it up so you can just go and do it and enjoy. Jim, of course, not with us anymore, but definitely with us through all of the movies, all the television series, and in the hearts and minds of so many, and of course, in your heart every single day. What would be something for those who have followed his iconic career all these years, who are now their memory is being, you know, trickled a little bit as they say, "Oh, that was him. Oh my God." They're looking at these photos, they're hearing our conversation, and now they're going to Google everything James Hampton and you as well. What would be maybe something extra special in addition to all the special things you've already said about Jim that would be something that you think our viewers would really, really enjoy knowing about him?
Well, I mean, this my observation, he was a very humble guy. And he was just grateful um, for everything that he accomplished. So he had a lot of gratitude. He had a beautiful heart. Um, he was very appreciative of his fans. And he was, I remember we started doing these Comic Cons and celebrity autograph shows. And I remember the first one we went to, he looked at me, he said, nobody's gonna know who I am. And I said, Jimmy, everybody knows who you are. And so he, I just want you to know he was a really humble guy, and he was very appreciative of his fans, and he recognized the fact that you know those were the folks that got him where he was. I mean, and he was really giving in that regard. When we went to these shows and fans would come up to the table, he always took time
Yeah.
and listened. And it's interesting because when you do the shows, um, people would come up to him, and it was almost like they felt like they knew him personally because they watched him in so many things and for so many years. And
And was he aware of that? Do you think he felt that? He
oh
knew
yeah,
that people felt that way?
absolutely. He and just is going to make me cry, but he several times there were people that would say to him, I sat, and my dad worked all the time, and but every Thursday night we watched F Troop together, and it was a special time for us. And now I'm watching it with my kid, and or I grew up without a dad, and I watched you in Teen Wolf, and I always wish that I had a dad like you. And
Mm.
so those kinds of things really touched him. And I think it's pretty special when you realize you have the opportunity to understand that you've made that kind of an impact on somebody's life just by doing something you love to do. So that I want everybody to know how grateful he was for them, for the fans.
It's so comforting and beautiful to hear when you think of all the output and enjoyment he's given all of us all these years, and you as well with your phenomenal career as well. You've touched upon so many different areas of, you know, television and film, the entertainment industry. Why does Mary love it as well as much as James did?
Oh, I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. I did my first stage play last year. I had never done live theater, and Jim had always encouraged me to do it. But our lifestyle, I just didn't have the time to commit because boy, is it a commitment.
It
I mean,
is.
he did theater, gosh, with Mamie Van Doren and with Bird and he Sal Mineo. I mean, he was a stage actor as well. So I kind of that was kind of my tribute, and I was so fortunate because I worked on a world premiere of a play written by Del Shores, who is just incredible writer, prolific writer, director. It was based on a film. Actually, it's interesting because the film came first called A Very Sordid Wedding. And he had done a series with Leslie Jordan, and who also Jimmy
Mm.
knew Leslie and Olivia Newton-John, called Sordid Lives. And
God
it
bless them both, huh?
yeah, and God, we've lost a lot of people in the last couple of years, and
Haven't
I
we?
just, but yeah, and so I loved doing it. It was so terrifying to me. But Dell was such a wonderful director, and yeah, so that's something that I was glad that I did. I don't know what's next for me, but I'll be out there somewhere.
You, you said you've done, voiceover work, things of that nature as well. Do you enjoy doing that?
I do, because you can do it in your pajamas. Nobody sees you, and so you can make all kinds of funny faces, and everybody just lends to your character. I mean, things that you might not do on camera, that you
Right.
do as a voiceover actor, because nobody's going to see you, squint your face out, and like that. And uh,
Well, as far as they know, you and I could be in our pajama bottoms right now.
true.
They
What
only they only see from here up.
oh, what COVID has done for Zoom and on camera meetings and things like that. We've all seen the videos on Facebook and Instagram. These poor people that forget that they do have
Uh,
their pajama bottoms on, and they get up and
right.
walk away. So
That they forget live is live. You don't get up
right,
and walk
right.
away. Somebody that's here that wanted to say hello, that always pops in on our show. Mr. George Burns is here.
Well, hello, Georgie.
That's it. He's got his cigar and his red pocket square, and he's all dapper. I say this all the time. My aunt collected thousands of dollars worth of seriously collectible dolls. George was one of them. Got
Wow.
passed down to me, and he pops on once in a while. He's sort of my associate producer. Hangs down below with his martini and his cigar, and he just popped
Nice.
in to send you some love. And there's somebody who made it to a ripe age as well, and a true legend, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't
Um,
doubt that James probably met him over the years too,
you know,
Hollywood.
Jimmy, again, Jimmy pretty much knew everybody. So,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
it's
he's hanging out with George and Gracie, Jimmy, right now. So
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
what they're doing, having a good time. And Chris Corman's here,
Oh,
our mutual friend who we love, and he's been sending his love. And yes, absolutely, Chris. We love our buddy
what
Chris
a
there.
doll! What a doll! And thank you for connecting me to Jim here, and what a fun time! What a wonderful man you are. And he told me his story of meeting Jim and his background with Jim, and we bonded over that. So yeah, forever
I
friends.
I appreciate that very much. Brian Wilson is here as well. Outstanding show, Jim and Mary. Wonderful meeting everyone here. Brian, thank you. This is what the vibe is. It's sort of Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson, old school. We don't call these really interviews. We call them conversations with a modern vibe. And it was really, he's been commenting throughout. Lori has been commenting. It's a great book, very entertaining, full of wonderful stories as well. Yeah, there's just been so many comments coming in, and I love all of this. And Mary, you are almost making me cry over your beautiful story.
Oh, oh.
Anastasia is somebody very special. I interviewed her mother. Her mother has since passed. Her mother was the legendary actress Sky Aubrey. And yeah, that's her mother. And we're working on a few things together, Anastasia and I, in
Oh, wow.
celebration of her mother. And boy, her mother was a real hoot. I loved when she was on, and she passed, unfortunately, in her 70s, not too far after, we had chatted. But boy, I had her on as a guest, and we were talking about her epic Hollywood career and her father involved with, MGM and all the different. And she's like, Jim, I want to ask you questions. I want to interview you. And I said, You do? She says, Oh, I've Googled you. I know who you are, Jim. It was just fantastic.
Well,
It
that
was
might be an idea for another show, where
absolutely.
somebody interviews you.
I like that idea. I like that idea as well. Yes. And James T. Aubrey Jr. Yes. Her father. Yeah, absolutely. And Kathleen Walker is in New York City, one of our regular lovely viewers. And she says, loved listening here tonight. Thanks, Jim. And thanks, Mary, for being here.
Oh, oh,
Special memories you have shared. And thank you. And Joe Johnson
Oh,
Western Arkansas Paranormal. He's been commenting throughout. Hugs,
oh,
Mary. Hope to see you in person soon. He's had some
yes.
nice comments as well,
Oh, thanks, Joe.
and everybody commenting here. Sherry Larson is in Kansas with us. Thank you, Mary, for such a wonderful evening. So enjoyed hearing about your career and your husband. F Troop was one of my favorite growing
Oh,
up.
good.
Please make sure and do come back. As I always say, Mary, we will definitely keep the porch light on for you. You are
Well,
very,
thank
very welcome to
I
be
have had a
here.
blast. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. My dad, I'll say this as I've said this before on the show. My dad has always given us the sage advice. I mean, I could remember being 9 years old, 8 years old, and him giving us this sage advice, adult advice to us kids. And one of the pieces of advice that reigns true today is he would say, Jim or Jimmy at that point, because he's the same name, James and Jim. If now I'm like 9 years old, and I still think of it today. If anybody says anything kind or nice to you, ask them to please put it in writing and address it management.
Very good.
So true, right? So true.
Absolutely.
I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, Mary, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
Oh, I had a wonderful time. Thank you so, so much for having me on.
You are very welcome. Do spread the word about our show. It takes a village. If you know folks that you think would like to come on as well, they are all welcome to join us. And I wish you well. Let's definitely stay in touch. I really appreciate
I would
knowing how
love
busy you are, that you took some time, especially you're planning your trip to go to Korea, which is going to be beautiful. I'd love to hear about that, when you get back. That would be cool. I wish you a safe trip and a beautiful, memorable visit there. And do stop back on the show. You are welcome back anytime.
I certainly will. And you have a fantastic trip to Florida.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Anastasia is buying your book. They
Yay!
all are. They all
Oh,
are.
you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
And Jane as well, and Sweden, and everybody. Mary, you're the best. You really are an illustrious gem. And
Well, I had a wonderful time and thank you so much.
And we thank you for sharing personally in such an open and real way your wonderful love and memory of Jim. We really appreciate that as well. You take care, okay?
All right, you too.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. So
Bye
long.
bye now. Mary Deese Hampton here. We're celebrating her iconic and illustrious career, but also that of her husband, James Hampton. We were talking about him at great length, and what a terrific person she is. They both. Here's again, we showed this earlier, a wonderful shot of the two of them. James, of course, we lost 2021, and it just feels like yesterday. And as Mary said, so many people in the last several years. But if you grew up on television or you watch movies, there's no way you have not seen that face. Again, one of those great actors and character actors in so many iconic television shows and series and movies and commercials, and yeah, of all different kinds too. Always had that next door neighbor friendly, guy appearance and vibe, but his range was extraordinary. And we talked about Teen Wolf. I mean, like I said, the range was extraordinary. And as you can see from what you heard direct from Mary, he was such a regular guy too, a good guy, one of the good guys. I always liked him. I always admired him. When he was on something that I was enjoying, him being on it just made it so much more enjoyable. And like that person that she was saying told her he had just such a comfortable face. He did. And there you are, Ken. President Clinton and Burt Reynolds and everybody there. And this is a great one too. Sealed with a Kiss. The book, gang, I know a lot of you are going to want to add this to your coffee table book library. There it is. What and give up show business. And now you know what's really cool about this conversation with Mary is now you know why he came up with that line. She actually told you and shared with us the story behind the title of the book, which is kind of cool. So now when you get the book and you read it and you enjoy it, you'll remember Mary being on the Jim Masters show and sort of the behind the scenes, a lot of behind the scenes stories that she shared with us so lovingly. Such a pleasure to have Mary Deese Hampton here, celebrated actress. Together, we also remembered her late husband, the iconic actor, James Hampton. Google him, gang. If you've seen the face and you're trying to think about some of the things you saw him in, Google him. And again, Mary herself in a lot of great movies, television shows, General Hospital, Family Matters, Fresh Prince. I mean, a lot of great shows and many more. Now she's been on Netflix and Amazon and HBO and you name it. Look for her. And she's working on a screenplay as well. And so awesome to have her here on the Jim Masters show. Gang, if you enjoyed this episode, there's a thumbs up icon, a thumbs up on our YouTube channel next to the episode. Give this episode a thumbs up and leave a comment for us. Even if you chatted in our chat room, leave a comment for us in the comments section right underneath this episode on the YouTube channel. We love that. We're very interactive. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, boy, there are over 930 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series that we have created for all of you in 3 years. This is our 3rd year, and we're going to be doing something special, sort of like a mini anniversary episode. So look for that coming soon. We're sort of putting that together now for all of you. So, yeah, 3 years and 930 episodes. If you know anything about episodic programming and content, that's a lot of shows. You may remember Loretta Swit was here from MASH, and she said, Jim, we were on for 11 years on CBS on MASH. We did 230. You're telling me you've done over 900? Yes, and loving it. Chris Corman, our friend. I love you, Mary and Jim. Thank you, Chris. We love you back. Kathleen, New York City, says, thanks, Jim. Great show. Kathleen is one of our loyal lovities, tier 1. And we really appreciate her comments and being here as well. Anastasia, love you, Jim, and love Mary. From everything I learned about Jim and Mary, thank you very much, Anastasia. And yes, Tubi and Plex, you can see all these great things. Tubi, Decades, Antenna TV, Me TV, Cozy TV. I love all of those, nostalgic channels because you can see so many great series and specials and movies. Barbara Hankins here. Barbara, welcome to the show. Anybody that's watching for the first time, this is what we do on the Jim Masters Show Live series, sort of like, again, bringing back the old school conversational warm style. You guys are like the studio audience watching and commenting from around the world. You're the virtual studio audience, and I'm a very interactive host, so love having you here. Barbara, we welcome you. You're now part of the Jim Masters Show Lovity family. And thanks to everybody who subscribed to our YouTube channel. Tell everybody you know about our series. We just did an incredible, iconic episode celebrating Carol Burnett. We've done specials celebrating Cindy Williams. We've had Marion Ross on the show. Kathy Garver has been on this show. Stanley Livingston, Barry Livingston, Jerry Mathers, the Leave It to Beaver has been on this show. And Melissa Manchester was on the show. I mean, it shows you the range. Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, sports, comedy, culinary arts, inspiration, authors, everything. And that's what a talk show really is. A talk show has variety and interaction and entertainment, as opposed to just an interview show where it's just an interview. So we like to have fun with all of you. Eric Levitt says, love this interview live from Culver City, California, SoCal, LA. You're welcome there. Do you remember the announcer that would come on, those wonderful deep announcers, those godlike sounds from Television City in Hollywood? Yes, the CBS building there, the iconic CBS building. Thanks for these comments. And Anastasia says they are all amazing. all 900 plus episodes. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate all of this. Spread the word about our show. If you guys know guests you would like to see on the Jim Masters show, celebrity friends, we've had a lot of my celebrity friends on, folks I've interviewed on television here in the States, and many others. If there's folks you would like to see on the show, let us know. And let them know about the show too. If you let them know, they may say, oh, we want to go on that show. Everybody's talking about it. The Jim Masters show. The Lovities is such a great extension of the love Jim extends to his guests. Chris, thank you. You got it, man. That is exactly what it's all about. That's exactly what it is. It's all about. Jane in Sweden says, you always have such many different interesting guests. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We really do. Extraordinary backgrounds they all have. Brian Wilson says, well done, Jim Masters. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that as well. Safe travels, bon voyage. Yes, she's headed to Korea, and I will be over the weekend headed to see the family in Florida. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. And a shining star. Yes, absolutely. Mary is. You are too. We think you guys are as well. And yes, Anastasia, I agree. Got to pass it on. Get more Lovities. It's the only show where the host communicates with the subscribers. That's what we do. The subscribers, or what we call the Lovity family, the growing Lovity family. I welcome everybody who's watching from all across the United States, Canada, all throughout North America. Our viewers watching in South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, New Zealand. We have viewers from all points of the globe, and we love having all of you here. Thank you very much, Kathleen and Eric and everybody. And Lori says, Mary, so great to hear you. Hope to see you soon. Yes. Talked about a couple of Marys today, including Mary Tyler Moore as well. Yeah, which was kind of cool and special. Really, really nice. Hey, I want to let you know, we've got a very special guest tomorrow. We have an actress. She's a teen actress who's in some of the hottest shows right now. And she's one of the most sought after young teen actresses in Hollywood right now. She is super excited about being on our show, and she's joining us tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, it's an earlier time. We're going to be here 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, because we have to take a really early plane to Florida Saturday morning. So we're doing the show earlier tomorrow, and it's earlier for our very special guest. Again, one of the hottest teen actors right now, most sought after in Hollywood. Kylie Opsel is here, television and film actress and producer. She's in a lot of epic TV series right now and films, and she's with us. We cannot wait to have her here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I want to let you know as well, it's going to be a lot of fun. Iconic, world-renowned mime Greg Goldston's going to be joining us soon here on the Jim Masters show as well. We're really looking forward to that. Lauren Thoman, writer, author, pop culture enthusiast, is going to be with us as well. We also have American theater critic, historian of musical theater, and author Steve Suskin is going to be joining us as well. And if you didn't see the unbelievable tribute that we did to one of our favorites, Carol Burnett, it's right on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Just scroll through our archives and you can see this special tribute with celebrity guests. Chris Corman, of course, son of Harvey Korman, who was with us, as well as other iconic figures who were a part of the Carol Burnett show, actors, dancers, lots of incredible stories to be shared. If you didn't see that episode, a lot of people are watching it. You can see that on our YouTube channel as well. And again, over 930 other episodes. So Mary Deese Hampton was extraordinary. We really thank her for joining us here on the show. She was a real delight. There is the book again. Look for it. You know, you can get it at Amazon and everywhere else that she mentioned. And that's going to be a great read for all of you, I don't doubt. Couple more comments. We'll check in. Don't forget, if you ever want to support the show while we're on, during the show and chat, there is super chat, super emoji, super stickers. There's also super thanks. That's in the chat section. And anytime, 24/7 on our channel, there's a super thanks heart icon. Click that, and that helps support all this content in our series as well. A couple more comments here. Yes, thank you, Sherry. We appreciate that as well. And I like that. Thank you, Anastasia. Yes, although we need to subscribe to talk, please subscribe to the show. Yeah, that's a special when you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Being able to chat in the Levity Hall chat room is a special gift from us to you. And you guys are great. Thank you very much. You're looking forward, Merlin's in Canada. She's looking forward to Kylie tomorrow. Kylie is all excited. We are so happy that she's coming on the show. And Lori says, safe travels to Korea for Mary. Absolutely. You guys are great. I haven't had dinner yet. We have chicken, and you know what else we have? We have baked chicken. I know you guys are a food crowd too. And mac and cheese. Yes. I've been trying to stay away from all that stuff. Not the chicken, but the mac and cheese. But hey, we've got mac and cheese waiting for us, homemade with chicken that just came out of the oven. I think I can smell that coming into the studio here. Can't wait to have it. We love you all. Gang, if this is the first time watching, well, welcome to the Jim Masters Show experience. It really is experience. And levity is not just a word, it's a momentum. That's what you guys have said. And love having all of you here. We don't say goodbye around here. You may remember, or for those of you watching for the first time, we say see you later, ciao, cheers. We say hajda, vida zain, hasta la vista. We say slancha, shalom, sayonara. We say moilup, which in African means walk well. Take care, and thanks for being with us. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and take time for yourself. Don't forget to love yourself as well. We're going to sign off just on this episode, but we shall return. I'll be back, as Schwarzenegger said, with another great episode. Kali Opsel is here tomorrow. Again, she's all excited, and she is going to be fantastic. All right. Thanks for being with us. We, again, love having you here. I am your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, right here on the Jim Masters Show. Take care, be well, and thanks for being with us. Cheers.